afternoon, everyone. My name is Dorothy Gallo, Superintendent of Schools in Hingham, and welcome to our first episode of the Superintendent Spotlight. And we're going to focus today on technology. It's a topic that certainly all of our kids are interested in, as well as parents. And for folks who aren't members of our school family, there perhaps are things that we're doing that you had never even dreamed that were happening in the Hingham schools. So in this segment, I have two guests. My first guest is Tony Keaty. Tony is the principal at the East Elementary School. As most of you know, we have 4 elementary schools in Hingham, all quite large. So Tony is at our newest school, East School. We also have Tina Wehner, and Tina is an elementary technology specialist. We have a Tina in each one of our 4 buildings, and she is at the Plymouth River School. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions of Tony and Tina, and then we have some video that may interest you. So Tina, let's start with you. I mentioned that there are 4 elementary schools. We have a tech specialist in each one, and certainly I know that your role is very much an instructional one. Our kids are all cycled through each specialist cycle and get lessons in technology. But our specialists are also the ones that have to keep things running in the buildings and keep the equipment going. And so talk to me a bit about how in that kind of a mixed role you balance the things that are important to do and where you really spend most of your time.
Okay, well, I have to say the position has certainly evolved over the past 14 years as technology has continued to come into our buildings. So my job is part teaching, so I teach the students. I also do training for the teachers, and I perform tech support in the building for all of the systems that are there. So it's a day-to-day thing. I have to say it's my priorities change daily. I try to keep ahead of everything, and on the good days things roll very well, and I teach the students. If there's issues or problems with any of the tech in the classrooms, I deal with those, and if not, then I have the luxury of getting into new technologies and innovations and have some fun there too. Mm-hmm.
You're actually going to see Tina in a clip that we're going to show in a couple of minutes, and that gives you some sense of her instructional role and linking the instruction to the classroom curriculum. Many folks know that we're embarking soon, we think, on a new form of standardized state testing, an alternative to the MCAS that we've been doing. And one proposal is something called PARC. Whether we have PARC or something that is like it, the next version of testing likely is going to be online from at least grades 3 on. So knowing that that is coming, how have you adjusted, or have you adjusted the curriculum that you have for the various grade levels to be ready for that? I know parents are particularly concerned about how well kids can type, how facile they are with the keyboard to meet the demands of the test. So what can you say to reassure parents that may be watching?
Okay. Well, we've certainly been looking at this for the past couple of years, ever since DEAS decided to go this route. And we're not sure what year we're going to be doing it, but we know it's coming, definitely. So pretty much on 3 fronts, technology has been involved with it. The first is we've been getting more computers, physically more computers into each of the buildings. The most recent dictate was that we have to have one computer for every student in a grade level, so they can take the test concurrently. So every elementary school has a computer lab and has at least one set of computers, laptops on wheels.
And more coming.
And more coming. The Chromebooks.
Plan.
Yeah, we'll be getting a whole set of Chromebooks as well. So on the hardware side, we're ramping up. In terms of for the teaching aspect of what we do, PARC has done, I have to say, a very good job in creating websites that are meant to help train the students on how to take a test online. So we're going to be teaching, we'll start that this year, where we'll train them, and they're lessons that will show kids, basically, how to use a radio button, how to use drag and drop, how to use arrow buttons, all the things that they're going to, and it'll be in the context of a quiz. So they'll get very familiar with how to take that test when it comes. They'll know there won't be any surprises. And the third area, as you said, is that keyboard. They need to know how to get around. The faster they can get their thoughts and ideas out and on another format, whether it's paper or on a screen, the better it's going to be for them, the more they're going to be able to produce, and the more coherent their thoughts and ideas will be when they're writing those essays. So we're working on that front as well.
I suspect that we, as adults, and particularly parents, are probably more intimidated by that prospect than the kids are, and the enthusiasm they have for working with technology.
Kids are fun to teach because they just absorb everything and they're happy.
All right, well, we're going to see you again in a minute, Katie, so let's move to Tony. Tony's building is unique in that among the 4 elementary schools, it's the only one that has an integrated preschool program in Hingham, 3 and 4-year-olds, and so in his building there are lots of children with multiple challenges, learning challenges, and so increasingly we get lots of requests for iPads, and at one level we're using iPads for things like communication. Tony's going to speak a bit about that in a minute, but also we have Title I program in Tony's building, and I know that we have iPads there. I should mention, when I mention iPads, that a large number of the iPads that we have throughout the district now have in fact been provided by our Ed Foundation, the Hingham Education Foundation, and they have been invaluable in all of the technology advancements that we've made. So Tony, tell me about the youngest kids, whether it be the preschool and communication or the literacy, the iPads, and how are those actually being used in practice?
Sure, we'll start with the integrated preschool program. So that program does have children ages 3 through 5. Many of them do have, as you mentioned, numerous disabilities. And for the children who have issues with communication, whether it be nonverbal or inability to kind of string together a sequence of thoughts, we will use the iPad to help them communicate. There are a number of apps and software packages that we can use. For example, we use one, Pro Quo, where it uses symbols instead of words, so the child can, through direct instruction, use the iPad and the Pro Quo to communicate what they want or don't want. So intentional communication, as well as responding to direct questions, so that they can sort of connect with another person. So that's one of the ways that we use it in the preschool program. And we're starting to use that program in sort of all the way up through our K through 2 intensive needs classroom as well. The goal for it, at the end of it, is for the child to not need the iPad. It's to move towards verbal communication. But this is the first step. And it's been very successful. We also use it once again in our literacy program with our younger students. We use it in a variety of ways, notably in small group instruction. It does provide for direct literacy instruction, where we can use a variety of books at different levels and change them as the child's sort of ability grows, as opposed to having to go out and find the next level book. We can instantly just sort of add or download it, and it allows us to sort of have sort of instant kind of feedback as well with the use of the program. So using it all the way through 2nd grade, and as we go on up into the upper grades, we'll continue to use it.
And lest anyone think we only use iPads at the elementary level or at each school, there are a number of other technologies that are used by teachers. So could you talk about some of those?
And throughout the grades, we have use of document cameras. I should sort of take a step back. All of our classrooms do have smart boards in them, the interactive whiteboards. So teachers use those daily, from the start of the day to the end of the day. And one of the big devices that they use is the document camera, where they're allowed to take any image and display it up onto the smart board, allowed to manipulate it, add text to it, take off sections of it and plug it into a document. So that's one of the things that they use. Teachers also use what's called a Sentio clicker. It's a wireless system that allows kids to give answers instantaneously. So teachers will use those in a variety of ways to sort of gather information, conduct polls, use them once again across subject levels. That's all once again happening in the upper grades, as well as in the younger grades.
Great. So certainly a lot is going on. I should mention that as part, we do have a technology plan that's fairly recent, about a year old, and the elementary level, as Tina mentioned, we're going to be adding some additional carts of Chromebooks, and that mainly is around the testing, although they will be used for many other things as well. In addition to that, we have an overall plan to have some iPad carts that could be used in a classroom setting, whereas now most of our iPad use is small groups or individuals. So thank you both, and we're going to enjoy the video in a minute and look particularly for Tina. Because she's there, and I think this video just kind of highlights. We did this this taping last spring and into the summer. Highlights some of the different things that are going on at the elementary level in our schools. Thank you.
Okay, so if I hold the temperature probe tighter, then what will happen? I'm Tina Wehner. I am the technology teacher at Plymouth River Elementary.
What's happening to the buttons on the conveyor belt? Is it going slower or is it going faster?
My name is Laura Donovan, and I teach kindergarten here at Plymouth River School.
Very nice job. I'll see you in a few days.
My name is Cynthia McKeon, and I'm the elementary art teacher at Foster School.
So if you go through it and you just go faster, and you slide your graph.
Tim Sayokis. This lab is to demonstrate motion time graphs to 6th grade students.
The lesson was about the scientific method. I taught to 4th graders, and it was about getting them to understand the concept of using laptops with peripheral devices. In this case, we used a vernier temperature probe, documenting data in a data table, analyzing their information, coming up with a hypothesis, and then working to prove or disprove that hypothesis.
The children were using a variety of iPod apps. The kids are totally engaged when they are using the iPads. They will focus for a much greater length of time than they would if they were doing a regular activity. One of the activities that they were doing was sorting, and it was a fine motor activity, so they had to use the pincer grasp and to drag things into different categories. So they were doing math as well as doing a fine motor activity. Another one of the activities that they did was a literacy activity where they were creating a book, which they got to go into the photos on the app that I had put in ahead of time, or on another occasion they've actually gone outside and taken pictures and then wrote about what they saw outside. And so they were using their kid spelling and doing their writing, and then the next step I would be, if they were to continue it, would be for me to put the adult spelling or the conventional spelling in it, so they get to see both their writing and their spelling, the conventional spelling as well.
This is at the very end of the year, and the students have been finishing up the outside of their portfolios, but I had 3 different media interactive technology lessons going on at the same time. We just got this great grant from the Hingham Education Foundation, so I do have one of the iPads in the art room, not from that grant, but from some fundraising I've done. And the students were trying out some animation. I had some students out in the hallway, and they were working on talking about their artwork and doing a little animated character. And then I had a couple of other students working on the smartboard, and they were interacting with a collage maker from the National Gallery of Art that's posted online at their Kids Zone.
This particular lab, it's great to see the students discussing how they're going to move to get the motion to map the image they're trying to create. By discussing it with each other and explaining it to each other, it just reinforces the lesson better than I can do it. It's a concept that can be difficult for 6th graders because conceptually it's cutting edge for them. Being able to take data and visualize it on a graph is something that they haven't been doing regularly much yet. So by giving them a way to kinesthetically do the lab, it really helps them dial in their understanding in a way that's going to stay with them.
As far as technology in the classroom, it's really evolved, especially in the time that I've been teaching. This classroom has 3 outlets. Kind of tells you what kind of technology was used way back when. You had a record player and maybe a tape player. And now I have 5 computers for the children, my own computer, a smart board. We have the iPads. Some of the other classrooms, 1st graders are using iPods for listening to reading.
It's critical. These kids have grown up with technology. They're 10 years old and they know so much already. They live it, they breathe it every day. So it's only natural that we would teach with as much technology as we can bring into the classroom. It's native to them.
It had a huge impact. When I use the document camera, I can zoom very close to what I'm demonstrating, so kids see it all up close and personal. Everybody sees everything, versus some children, maybe if you have a large classroom, maybe not being able to see. The kids learn faster because of that. When there's interactivity on the screen, they understand more quickly.
Well, the benefit, it's basically twofold. It gives, as a teacher, another way to explain the lesson. It gives them another way to visualize it, another way to experience it. The second part that's really nice is that we're trying to prepare them for a workforce that is technology-based. So getting them comfortable in using technology at an early age, it sets them up for success when they leave us.
The last activity that they did was a handwriting activity where they got to choose their tool, which would be either Jell-O or ketchup or shaving cream, and they were tracing letters with correct letter formation to read their sight words, what we call their red words. And I've had the children do that activity for up to 15 minutes, where I would never get them to stay with a pencil and a piece of paper or even chalk on a chalkboard and write and do correct letter formation. So it really is very engaging and keeps the kids on task a lot longer.
What I try to do is integrate whatever they're doing in the classroom and make a lesson of it in the computer lab. So, you know, if they're learning about the scientific method in their class, I do a lesson on the scientific method. If, you know, the little ones come in and they're learning about Venn diagrams and comparing and contrasting, then I do a lesson on that.
The first time, one of the first times I used the smartboard, we were looking at a piece of art from ancient Maya, and I had the kids, the fifth graders, going over them with the smartboard fluorescent marker, and we were looking at what showed power on these people, what was added to show power on these princes. And they kept highlighting and highlighting, and one of the kids said, everything shows their power. And that's, I couldn't have said that and had them understand it more quickly and easily, and they had a wonderful time.
The other activity that they did was called Codables, and they were in the very beginning stages of learning to code, to write code for apps and for computers, and they love it. There's a whole story about a planet and these little lowly creatures that they have to tell how to follow along on a path. So that was also very engaging for them.
A lot of it with teachers is about training. I mean, there's always going to be some teachers who take the ball and run with it, with technology. They're naturally inclined toward it, and I don't worry about those teachers. But for the vast majority of others, there's just not enough time in the day for them to do everything they're expected to do. So the more training we can give them, and the easier we can make it for them to get technology in their hands and actually use it in the classroom, the better it's going to be.
We used to say when you taught, you had to do a little song and a dance to keep their attention. And now you need a song and a dance and some flash animation to keep them interested and keep them engaged. It really does work. And it's fun. I love it. The kids ask me, how do you find these apps? And I tell them, I play on the iPad, and I find them and I play them, and they're great, and they teach you a lot along the way.
That was terrific. I've seen that clip now several times, and I learned something new each time. And I would follow up with something that Tina said, and that has to do with professional development, because certainly that's a real big part of any plan we have moving forward. We do a survey every year at the end of the year. Ellen Keene, our assistant superintendent, has a committee and surveys staff as to what they want to see for professional development activities for the coming year. And technology in the last 8 to 10 years has always been way at the top of the list. So thank you for coming today and joining us.
Great, thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back. We have some new guests. I'd like to introduce them and then have a few questions for each of them. We have Tim Siokas, and Tim is a middle school teacher. You saw him in the last clip, and we'll come back to that in a minute. We have Katie Roberts, and Katie is our Director of Science from K-12. And Katie actually did a bit of the taping of that last clip that you saw. And then we have Karen Condon, and Karen Condon is our technology coordinator at the middle school. Big job right now because the new building has just opened. So let me start with Tim. So last spring, when that was taped, Tim, you were teaching 6th grade math and science.
Correct.
And so the clip that we saw had to do with the use of iPads and probes in that setting. But now you're teaching a new course, what we call a STEM course. That is a piece of our middle school program, brand new this year. So can you tell us a bit about what the focus of that new course is? And
Sure.
in particular, what kinds of technologies that you're using?
I was in a great position over the last couple of years where I was teaching both the science and the math, and I could integrate them as I was going along. If we're working on algebra in math class, we could talk about Newton's laws in science class, and there's a great overlap there. The STEM program that we're starting now, I look at it as a bridge between the science and the math departments. The kids are doing hands-on experiments, and they're interpreting the data using the skills that they've learned in math class and in science class.
Mm-hmm. And the curriculum for this kind of a course sounds very unique, but actually the whole idea of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math is kind of an old concept, and a lot of it is very much connected to our MCAS testing. And while we mentioned earlier that there's going to be a likely change to PARC or PARC-like testing, online testing in the future, MCAS in science is here to stay. So that in a sense we're kind of keeping up with what has been going on for a long time, but it's brand new to us at the middle school.
Sure, the STEM concept has been around for a long time, and I think it's gaining a lot of traction in education these days. Really, with such a technology-focused workforce that we have now, the focus for us is to educate them and prepare them to enter that workforce. So again, getting them hands-on, getting them collaborating with each other, it'll give them a leg up when they leave our care.
So you've been in school roughly 3 weeks now, and so what has the reaction of the students been about this new
The
course?
students have been super enthusiastic about it. I think anytime that they can get hands-on and they can do group work, they start to get really excited about it. When they're teaching each other and they're learning on their own, it really helps me do my job because they get that much more excited about it and into it.
Mm-hmm. And I understand you have some new technology that is especially exciting, brand new
Sure,
for Hingham.
yeah, we're lucky enough to have a 3D printer, which is a additive design process. So it will actually take a plastic filament and it will melt it through a heater, and it'll lay down a layer at a time, almost like baking a cake. You get these layers of plastic, and you can create a 3D image based on a CAD file. So I'm really excited to get that in the hands of the kids. They'll be able to design a prototype, we'll get a 3D plastic prototype that they have built, and then they can do testing on it, iterate on the design, reprint it, and then see the changes in real time as they go.
Sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah,
for
I think the
kids.
kids are looking forward to it too.
Let me move to Karen. Karen is the technology coordinator. Karen came last fall, just after the year had begun, because we felt it was important in terms of building a new school to have someone on hand as the wires went into the walls and as all of the new technology was being added in, and to learn how to use it and so on. So can you share with the folks who are watching some of the new technologies that are there that folks might not know about? I mean,
Sure.
obviously we have computers.
Oh, yes, everything pretty much in the building, all the technology is pretty much brand new. All the classrooms have brand new desktop computers, brand new smart boards, document cameras. We have a distance learning theater, which is roughly 92-person seat, sort of like lecture hall, which has the ability to do video conferencing. You can video conference with anyone, anywhere in the world. You can do video presentations, audio presentations in there. We have 3 computer labs with 28 computers in each of the labs where teachers can take their students in there. They can do interactive lesson plans. Students can go in there and do research if they need to. We have a dedicated language lab with 30 consoles where
And that's
students can
brand
sit
new
there.
to middle school.
That's
We had a
brand new to the
language
middle
lab
school.
at the high
Yes, we
school.
didn't have that last year. Students can listen and they can speak and do their lessons, and the teacher can interact with them individually or as a group, which I think is a pretty neat concept. We have the LMC, which we have a studio where students can go and they can take cameras and they can do videos and they can produce their own videos. We have an editing space and a studio where they can film in there as well. There's lots of technology all over the place in that
And
building.
of course, we have a Chromebook initiative
yes,
coming up.
we have Chromebooks,
So all
and
of
there's
our
some
sixth graders will have
yep,
Chromebooks,
yep.
and teachers have had them since last spring. So they're learning to develop the lessons around that. We had
Yes.
a lot of technology training during the summer as
Yep,
well.
yep, we had some professional development over the summer.
The Chromebook initiative, the Chromebooks are are en route will not be handed out to the students until about mid-year time. Hopefully, it could be a little bit sooner than that, because we have all kinds of protocols and policies and things that we need to work out to make that work effectively. So these first couple of weeks of school, what have you been doing? Putting out fires and?
Putting a lot of steps on my Fitbit. Yeah, putting out fires, but it's more just making sure that the teachers are comfortable with their computers, the new setup, helping them to get the smart boards and implementing them into their lesson plans, installing specialty applications like reading applications, math applications, those types of things that didn't get put onto the computers right away. Those types of things that they say, hey, I need this, can you help me out with that type of thing.
And of course, as we move forward into this new version of testing, whether it be PARCC or something else, we will be in the fortunate position of the middle school of being able to teach whole classes concurrently because of the number of labs, and also ultimately individual kids having Chromebooks of their own that can be used. So we're going to be in a very good position there as well. Our internet access there will probably be the best in town, simply because it's all.
The wireless capability in the building is just, it's great. I mean, each student can have probably up to 3 devices if they had that many devices, but
hopefully they won't.
Hopefully they won't. No, we're not going to encourage that. But it's the planning that went into this building and the investment in the technology has just been incredible. For me, being a technologist, it's you kind of like drool over some of this stuff, but it's quite impressive.
And certainly that's one of the pluses of building a new building, because part of the School Building Authority's reimbursement program allows a fixed amount per student just for technology. So it's a wonderful opportunity for a school system to take that next step into some, not just newer technologies, but technology is more reliable and up to date. And so that has happened at the middle school, and 6 years ago now, 5 years, full use of the East School. We also had a big infusion of technology there using those grant dollars, reimbursement grant dollars from School Building Authority. Tony and I were talking this morning that there's a plus and there's a minus about having that kind of infusion of money to buy technology. On the one hand, you can do things that you could never have done with the annual school budget. The bad news is that when things begin to go wrong, they all begin to go wrong at the same time. So when things like bulbs burn out and the smart boards get tired and so on, we have to worry about that. Thank you, Karen.
Sure.
So Katie is our science director, K-12, and certainly sees the use of technology at all the different levels. In particular, last year we had a foundation grant for middle school iPads. And so why don't you talk a bit about that and where we would seem to be going, at least in science, in terms of one-to-one access.
Well, one thing that we've discussed as a department is there's no one perfect device, so I think our balanced approach of having multiple devices for multiple purposes is a good one and a good strategy going forward. And most likely, 5 years from now, we may not be discussing any of the devices that we're using currently as the technology continues to evolve. But what it has allowed us to do is to expand in creative ways. Tim is just one example of the many creative ways that our teachers have applied the technologies in their classrooms, ranging from, at the high school level, our physics lab feature motion sensors, our chemistry labs feature temperature probes and so on, biology labs feature oxygen sensors, and now we're starting to roll that back into the middle school, and so now our middle school students will have similar opportunities in their science classrooms to use digital probes for collecting data, for analyzing data, and will be heading to the high school with the technology skills they need to hit the ground running on our science labs. So I observed a lesson today at the high school where the students were using motion sensors, very similar to what Tim used with his students last year. And again, our students, once they hit the high school, will be even more prepared to really focus on the data analysis and less on the data gathering. So.
And you will see, our audience will see some clips that show some high school teachers who are using probes in the field. So we'll look forward to seeing that. Many years ago, I was the math science director in the Hingham schools. And we were using probes back then, so what's the difference between what we did then and using the probes and what's happening now and the connection with the iPad technology?
Well, I think as we see in any technology, the devices get slicker, sleeker, faster, and more portable. So, for example, when the data probes first came out, we were primarily using them in the classroom. And as you'll see in some of the clips that we'll see today, these data probes are now portable and weatherproof, such that you can bring them out into the field, as we'll see in one of the clips. Use them in the Weir River for testing water and stream flow and so on. So the range of applications and uses, I think, just is continuing to expand.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all. It's very exciting to be in education. I think we would all agree with that right now with all the technology. In another segment of this focus on technology, we're going to hear a bit more about what's happening at the high school level, particularly with respect to our students who themselves have become teachers and educators. We have a tech squad, really has been in existence just a little over a year now, and wonderful things going on. So we're going to hear a lot about that in the next segment. But thank you all very much.
Thank you.